And welcome back to Doodle Russ Designs, your one-stop shop for all your character design, illustration and doodle needs. Today's video is the fourth in my how-to series, where I've explored body proportion, expression and emotion within the kind of portrait faces. Last episode was about the use of colour, harmonious colours, warm and cold colours. Today's video I'm going to explore kind of playing with contrast of the character against their background setting. I'm going to be using a mixture of materials, primarily laying down a kind of a watercolor base in the background, looking at a variety of kind of light and dark shades, again adding that sort of sense of shadow. There'll be some colour pencil, again like the last video, to add a sense of texture, and there'll probably be a bit of alcohol marker in there as well. So I've initially just kind of laid down some very light loose washes in behind the kind of first young character, kind of setting an initial kind of warm kind of brick background. So we come across to these second two characters, just a very kind of light wash of blue to kind of suggest kind of a reflective quality of a kind of a window behind them. Got an idea that these two characters are kind of two shady kind of businessmen. As we come across onto this final one, again staying with kind of cool colours, initial kind of just light wash of a purple in the background. Again playing with the amount of water to dilute the colours and just kind of spotting it in and around, allowing for certain areas to just kind of pick up that little bit of darkness. As I come back to my first drawing here, just adding that sort of second layer, a little bit less water, just starting to suggest where there might well be some shadow just cast behind kind of each of the characters as they sort of sit in their location. So a big part of these characters is kind of get a sense of the world in which they inhabit. And as I've said before in previous videos, not only am I kind of using each of these episodes, each of these videos as a way of kind of showcasing my different characters, my different ideas, but kind of getting my head around how to kind of best record them. You know, having sat for, well, the last 20 plus years kind of designing characters and coming up with stories and worlds in which they live in, trying to capture that process is kind of again one of the big kind of learning curves really. So I'm just beginning to add a little bit of colour pencil in places. Again, the paint has now just dried in the background, so just building up that layer of darker shades into the background, as you saw there at the start. Also just added a little bit more intensity to the pink on his nose, and also with just that kind of sharper point on the pencil, starting to add little marks, little bits of texture into the brickwork in the background. And again, that process of understanding sort of where to place the camera when kind of filming it, so as not to kind of block the drawings while you're doing them. And also that continued kind of focusing in and out of the camera. That's still something I'm sort of fine tuning really. So again, as I said earlier, these videos will be a bit of a mixed media approach, watercolor, colour pencil, just for that intense pop of colour there in the eyes, adding that little bit of light blue. As we come across onto the second character, I will speed up different parts as I sort of go through. Other times I'll slow things down and talk you through the process. Here on this character, I'm just going to play with a slightly more sort of tanned skin colour, using that kind of yellow ochre. And again, always with watercolour, kind of kicking off with that initial light wash in the background, and then as I move forward through the character, just deciding areas where I want them to be darker for shadow, and also just deciding where I might want to mix in a little bit of alcohol marker, maybe changing the colours for contrast for the nose and the lips. Here I'm thinking about using some of these kind of pink colours, or do I go for kind of a brown colour on the nose, so keeping it consistent with the rest of the colours on the face. Again, I'm looking to maybe just leave that little pop of white just on that right hand side of the nose, just to emphasise where that light source is being consistently coming from that right hand side. Going to contrast the warmish skin tones, the oranges, the kind of the tan of his face, and then also to kind of sit in harmony with the background, going for a cooler coloured suit, different colours of blue. Just means there's that, not only that little bit of contrast within the character, but it just sort of marries him into the background a little bit. And that nice little bit of pop of red on the tie. So for this second character, a much more sort of paler skin tone in alcohol marker. Those little pops of a sort of harsher pink on the eyelids and lips, and then something I like to do is to kind of contrast that with it says a pale blue, but it actually comes out as a kind of purple colour. So whether it might be the kind of the eyelids, the lips, or a lot of the time the nose, I like to just contrast the skin colour. On this one here, the pink against the blue just kind of makes it stand out, just makes the character, you know, such a prominent feature pop like that. But equally then it kind of marries in with the background, so you've got that blue sitting behind them, and then has that contrast with that cool coloured purple nose, green on the blazer, and then that little flash of kind of blondish hair on top. Just kind of helps all of those colours kind of work in unison with each other. Just gonna lay down, if you can see, some slightly darker kind of hues in the hair, layering a little bit of brown into the hairline, and then bring in just some slightly darker shades. You might see this a little clearer, that purple on that left hand side, again just giving that far hand side of the nose and the little kind of, I'm not quite sure whether they're kind of freckles or pimples on the nose, just fleshes that nose out, just gives it that little bit more sense of kind of 3D form. And just to finish, a little touch of kind of 5 o'clock shadow with colour pencil. Just gives you that kind of textural finish on the top. So, first 3 characters done. Kind of mixing watercolour, colour pencil, and a little bit of alcohol marker. As we come on to this final character, kind of the second of the 2 younger individuals. Again, I'm looking to mix in some alcohol markers for the skin tones. Just bringing some slight contrast in certain areas. Just about see it on the camera there. I'm just sort of adding touches of darker shades around the eyes, under the nose, just where the shadows might fall. As we do some cuts, we get to kind of the conclusion and the customary kind of ginger character appearing to finish that kind of top row. So we've got the 2 young individuals either side, and then the 2 kind of dodgy businessmen in the centre. And then down the bottom, I'm going to look to explore these kind of horror characters. Again, mixing some different mixed media kind of materials. And as we begin this second part of the video, kind of exploring some slightly kind of darker shades of colours, a little bit more muted than the brighter colours at the top, just again laying down an initial kind of tonal wash with the watercolour, and then looking to go in with some of the alcohol marker on this kind of stone-like archway. So again, looking for areas where we're seeing the light and the dark, areas where the paint is slightly more diluted, or in certain areas where the shadow is falling behind the character, just putting a few more layers on top, but kind of allowing the paint to kind of be quite sort of fluid and textural, so as a slight contrast to the characters that are going to have that slightly more kind of block-like colour. The thing I do like with the watercolours is that kind of quite patient layering of the colours, working up from light to dark, just kind of building those stages and sort of fleshing out the backgrounds. So you get a real sense of where these characters are kind of living, what sort of world they inhabit. Another little thing I'm becoming conscious of when I'm recording these kind of voiceovers is what the microphone picks up and what it doesn't, where I'm moving around and sort of shuffling sort of noises in the background. I've left them in on this video. I could have gone back and sort of edited them out, but hey ho, you live and learn. So again, against that watercolour background, I'm looking to lay down my initial pops of green with the alcohol markers. Again, trying to use 2 or 3 variations. Still, again, a sort of a learning curve with the alcohol markers. I found these ones with the kind of fine point tips, they're not so good at sort of blending and getting that consistency. So you will see some development in future videos. I'm looking to get myself some more of the brush tip alcohol markers, and I'll give them a little bit of a review when I try those out. So here, the less blending with the shadows, kind of just putting them in quite block-like down that left-hand side. but already that kind of limey green colour standing out quite nicely against that little bit more muted background. Another little thing, finding when doing these videos, I have at times kind of drafted a script and tried to be quite precise with what I'm saying, but at times at the moment now I'm just gonna kind of see how it goes, free-forming, you know, watching the videos back, giving a kind of a natural commentary kind of over the top. Here again, where the video is just taking you through the kind of the stages of building up light and dark, here just laying down the slightly darker form of the grey just to give us that shadow quality across his hair and into his stubbly beard. And then again, as I mentioned with the characters above, that time to just put that pop of pink in there. Again, his nose, I was toying with it on the previous video. His nose was green, but I thought, no, I want that nose to kind of stand out, that big block like shaped nose standing out there. So laid down that initial pink and then looking to kind of blend it up into the green as it goes up towards his eyes. Thought I'd just stick another track on, a little bit of a spooky background on this one as we work towards the conclusion of this first character. So again, as I said at the start of the video, this one was playing with different materials, so that use of watercolor, color pencil, alcohol markers, just trying to achieve different qualities of whether it be the texture that you can add in with the color pencil over the top, at times getting that slightly more intense quality of light and dark. Here you can see I'm just going over some of those areas that I initially put down the kind of alcohol markers, and just working some darker greens, some darker pinks here into the lips. Gonna pop a little bit onto the nose. Again, it's all of those layering of those different qualities that, as we see that character now, just starting to get a sense of him having that kind of 3D quality. And again, playing with different ways of putting these videos together. You see things done in other videos, and I'm not sure that one worked. But at this point we're 22 minutes in, and if there's anyone still out there watching this, I put my hands up to you. Thank you for sticking with us, even if maybe at times you might have fast forwarded through. So again, like I say, this one will go down in the list of trying things out, I would suggest. I kept some qualities from the character from the kind of full body proportion video. That kind of curtain-like haircut, kept that, but just wanted to give it a little bit of a twist, that kind of black and white, almost Beetlejuice style kind of round neck jumper, and then that flush of kind of bright pink in the hair. And again, just having a look at that sort of wider chisel tipped alcohol marker, just to add that slight layer of shadow in behind the character. And with two more characters to go, kind of the vampire character here, and then the one I suppose I'm sort of classing as a kind of a villager, the woodcutter in the kind of the classic sort of fairy tale like story. switching it around this time, going for an alcohol marker in the background. I toyed with some colours in the background, you know, did I go for just a dark black, for a night sky, dark blue, but I like a purple, went for a purple to pick out some of the details in the kind of the graveyard background. Mixing some little bits of colour pencil over the top just to kind of capture some kind of harmonious blues alongside those purples, just picking out some of the shadow kind of detail in the background. And as we just finish off the shadow with the colour pencil in the background, I was, again, like the background, I was toying with different ideas for the skin colour. Do I go for a kind of a sickly pale grey, a pale blue? But I sort of went with this kind of turquoisey light green for the skin tone, slightly darker areas in the nose and the eyes, and then that bit of purple running through his hair. And I felt that worked quite nicely. It's kind of complementary to the that rich kind of red in his kind of cloak-like gown. And as we enter into this last character, again, if you're still here and watching, thank you ever so much for sticking around. Maybe if you've jumped around in the video, that's totally fine. If you're a returning subscriber, again, thank you for your support, and any comments, anything you'd like to add to what you've seen, what you've liked, what you'd like to see more of, any pointers or suggestions would be, you know, gratefully received in these early kind of months of this YouTube journey we're going on. So as I just finish off this last one with the alcohol markers, here we get the full set. Today's video was about that idea of looking at contrast between foreground characters and the backgrounds that they're sat with him. That mixture of materials, we've looked at watercolor washes, layering a little bit of extra texture and intensity in with colour pencil, and then at times spotting that kind of alcohol markers where we're just looking to get that kind of contrast of colour. So hope you enjoyed the ride. Thanks a lot for your time, and keep on doodling.